Welcome back to Lantern Insights. Today for our 5-minute deck tech, we're going to be looking at a primarily Golgari version of Lantern, playing just a few white cards in Leyline. This version comes courtesy of Philosopher, also known as Thinker in the Discord server. I'll put a link to his channel below. He does a lot of gameplay, lots of gameplay videos, and this is his current list that he's playing. Some things that I want to highlight right off the bat. Obviously, as we can see, it's a Profane Tutor version, but it's also playing Ancient Stirrings. So sometimes, some people play one or the other, and this version is just showing that you can play both, getting a lot of card selection. But what I really want to highlight in this version is the mana base, where most of the lands I think you'll usually recognize from Lantern. Playing Gardens is very powerful, being able to copy a mill rock. However, the pathways are lands that you don't see them very often in Modern, and I'm going to talk a little bit about why he's playing them and what they can do for Lantern. We're a deck that usually we're going to take a lot of damage from our opponent early before we can resolve a bridge, and so we often don't have the space in order to play fetch shocks, as that can really add up that damage, and without kind of any removal or any board presence early, it can kill us quite easily. And so the reason for these lands is that games 1, you always want untapped black mana on turn 1, where being able to cast your hand disruption early is very powerful. So both of these pathways are untapped on black in game 1. The pathway with green on the other side is useful for Stirrings or Trophy. In either case, it is very relevant. And the reason to play the white pathway is just to have a few more ways of hard casting Leyline if you draw it. So currently, it's just Glimmervoid and Spire of Industry, but I know that I've definitely been in situations where you play Bridge and then you just start drawing Leylines and you don't have any way of getting them out of your hand, and so that's aiming to get rid of that problem, where recognizing the importance of turn 1 discard, but then also in post-board games with Leyline being able to hard cast your Leyline. So the white-black pathway, you'd never put it on white unless you've brought in the Leyline from your sideboard, and then in that case, later you can put it on white. In terms of what else this deck is doing, it's playing Assassin's Trophy as its main removal. This is going to improve its matchup against anything that cares about lands. A lot of versions don't have many ways of interacting with lands, but Assassin's Trophy is a very good answer. So whether that's Tron, Amulet Titan, Coffers, all of those trophies going to help you a lot in, and it's going to be it is a bit slower. So Trophy as a less impactful removal spell against Burn, Murktide, Scam, kind of anything that plays Ragavan, Jund, and anything with very aggressive early cheaper threats, Trophy is not a very good option against. But anything aiming to go bigger, it's also good against Leyline Binding, being able to get back whatever they've exiled with it. So it's good against the decks that go bigger, and not as good against the decks that go smaller, just with this removal suite. If we move on to the sideboard, we can see Nature's Claim. One thing we talked about with Trophy over Pending is that it's harder to remove smaller things, so something like Hammer, Trophy isn't as great against, and Nature's Claim really helps with those matchups. Also good against another good card against Titan. Necromentia. This is a card that many lists have played at various times. Often, it's usually the best of these effects for us. Just giving them a 2/2 zombie is much less relevant than giving them a card, which something like Stonebrain or Unmoored Ego does. Obviously, playing the Leylines for the fast aggressive matchups. We have one Emrakul in the sideboard for Mill. It is the best card against Mill that we can have in our sideboard, just taking up one slot. There's basically no world where we ever hardcast it, so it's basically only there for the Mill matchup, which also we have Academy Ruins in this list, which hopefully makes that matchup pretty good, as even if they have Tasha's, Emrakul is usually going to eat most of that. And then Damping Sphere, Curse Totem, because you're playing Profane Tutor, finding these answers is a lot easier. So between these Damping Sphere and Trophy, Tron is actually a much better matchup with this list than with some other lists. And then just rounding it out, Curse Totem, Stone of Eric, and Nihil Spellbomb as your graveyard creature deck strategy. Hopefully this has helped you learn a bit about this deck. Make sure to head over to Philosopher's channel for some great gameplay on this version.